I've been getting so many comments asking me how I take my notes so aesthetically, and I think it's finally time to show you guys what I do and how I do it all. Before you rush to the comments and start saying about how this is performative, this doesn't work, like, if something looks good and is aesthetically pleasing, I am a lot more willing to like study and look at it over and over again, which, yeah, it's gonna be a little bit performative, but if it genuinely makes you happy and makes you excited to revise, I think it's always worth it, especially if it doesn't really take you that much time out your day to just make your notes look a little neater and a little nicer. Anyways, enough yap. This is everything I use to take my notes, and I'll explain it as we go along, but I'm not gonna sit here and yap to you guys. I want to show you guys what's going on. Starting with biology. So for biology, I try to take notes after every single lesson. This is mostly non-negotiable. Obviously, some lessons will have mountains of content and others will have nothing. Either way, I feel the need to be caught up on notes and flashcards all the time. But don't get me wrong, it is a long process. Like, this usually takes me around 30 to 45 minutes to make my notes, and then another 20 to 30 to make the actual flashcard. To begin with, I take these notes using a mix of like textbooks and in-class notes to sort of consolidate all of my knowledge all at once. Every now and again, I also use the mark scheme, because if you know A-level biology, you know the mark scheme is the most important thing you will ever find. I don't know. So I've experimented with a lot of designs over the years, but I think I've finally gotten a layout that is like really clear to me. That's the important thing, right? You need to have it clear to you. If it makes sense to you, that's what matters. Some things that I do might not work for you guys, might not work for your brains, might not make you remember, but if you play around with it enough, it should, you know, click for you eventually. So here is how I do my layouts, and I'll obviously put pictures on the screen to make it a lot clearer to you. Okay, I've yapped way too much now. Starting with the topic title at the top, I usually do like the thickest, darkest green ever, green for biology. Debate me on that. I am right, green is biology. And I'll write like a number, subtopic, etc. The subtopic or like subtitle I usually do in a lighter green. Smaller subtitles, again, lighter shades of green, only underlined though, no highlighting. Oh, and I also don't think I mentioned, I always get questions about the notes app I use. I use Good Notes for the record, and I'll put some like example hex codes of colors up. You can literally just go on Pinterest, search up like a color palette or hex codes for a color palette. That's how I found all the greens that I use for my notes, all my other notes as well. For chemistry, I use like orangey colors, red colors, and then for maths I use blues. Keywords is a pretty important one. I always do the lightest shade of green and I highlight those. Those are the most important like key parts of my notes. I hope that made sense for you guys. It's pretty difficult to explain, but hopefully with the visuals you'll understand what I'm saying. Various other things like numbered methods, tables, and diagrams. I don't really have a concrete format quite yet, and I don't think I really will. I think it will just change. I think it's really important to include diagrams, by the way, because personally I'm a really visual learner. Otherwise, that's it for my biology notes that I take at home. Now, in-class notes is a very, very different subject. For stationery, which I know some of you guys are really curious about that, I always use the Muji pens. I have two different shades of green, a dark one and a lighter one, and then I also use random highlighters. You can get them anywhere. And I use these kind of cheap new notebooks. I'm not sure what they are really. All of my in-class biology notes stay in this book, unless I'm given handouts by my teachers. That's a bit different. I will hole punch those and put them into my ring binder. Ring binders are so important, by the way. I'm gonna make a video eventually on year 12, what you're gonna need for year 12 and year 12 advice, and ring binders are a number one definite thing. The general consensus for my notes in class is the title is always in highlighter, and sometimes I like outline it with the darker green. Big titles are in dark green, keywords are in light green, and then sometimes I'll do like other diagrams and things. Again, they're kind of miscellaneous. And also, while I'm here, I may as well run you quickly through my flashcards and why my flashcards look like that. Basically, they have a box around the outside, you know, like the little corners that I do. They show which way the flashcard is up, so usually I will put the question side on the like outer highlighted bit. It just makes it visually a bit easier for me to find out what side of the flashcard I'm looking at. It makes organization significantly easier for me. At the bottom of the flashcard highlighted, I will put like the subsection I'm on. I think it's the subsection. It's literally topic and section. If you don't know how flashcards work, you put the question in the middle on the front, turn it around, and you put the answer on the back. The last thing I want to mention about biology, this also applies to chemistry, is my lab book. And obviously I don't have one for maths, but basically what a lab book is it keeps track of all the experiments that you do throughout the year. This includes risk assessments, methods, what you're going to use, diagrams, photos of evidence, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Teachers will explain this to you, do not worry. I also want to mention that I get my lab book provided to me by the school, because to explain this this to the best of my ability. Basically, you have to pass a certain certificate type thing. Over the year, the teacher will mark you on how good you do certain parts of the experiment, like planning the experiment yourself, like reading instructions, handling equipment safely, and then they have to check off if you've done all those things. And at the end of your 2 years, you will most likely pass a thing that says that you can work in a lab safely. I feel like I've explained that in the strangest way. To sum it up, it's a certificate that says you can work safely in a lab. And I'm pretty sure that's it for biology. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I will answer them. Now I'm gonna actually make some notes, but before we do that, we need to crack open a little drink. This is the way I reward myself for studying. Okay, I'm ready. Next is maths, and I'll be real, I do not make maths notes. I do in class, I do a lot in class, but I don't make any at home. For maths, it's a little bit different because I get given one notebook and I have my own workbook that I have. It's the same new notebook, which I have in blue because maths is blue. I'm sorry, but what other color is maths gonna be? Anyways, starting with my own notebook, I really don't use this that much. I use it for starters and if there's any sort of extra tasks I need to do. All of my homeworks and most of my worksheets that I get handed in class, I get lots of handouts, are done on loose squared pieces of paper, which I'll usually hole punch and staple to the handout I got, just because it's easier to give it to the teacher instead of giving them a whole notebook. Like, how many notebooks are these teachers genuinely gonna get that they have to go through and find each homework? I think it's just more convenient. Then, for my actual in-class notes, I get given notebooks. They're big and yellow and obnoxious, but you know what? I've come to love them. They stand out. And sometimes the inside of those notebooks are really, really messy because my teachers speak so incredibly quickly. I have to write everything down, just kind of scribble everything down at times. I actually started off really strong in this notebook and it was so neat. But in A-level maths, if you miss something, you are going to have to relearn that whole thing yourself. So I have to keep up and it gets messy, I'm not going to lie. But of course, that's okay as long as you know what's going on. Other than that, I don't make at-home notes whatsoever. I tried to in the beginning, but I just don't think there's any point where I already make really in-depth notes in my lessons. Now for the main star of the show, my lever arch binder. I can't live without this thing. And yes, I do bring it to every single lesson and it's a huge pain. Again, like I said, most of my work is done on a loose piece of paper that I hole punch and just put in my lever arch binder. I have lots of different sections for all my different topics. And my teachers actually do binder checks, which I found so weird because I don't think any colleges do that. Like, side note, when I went to college, they said they would never check up on any sort of work, like we didn't have homework or anything. No, they do binder checks at my school, which is so odd to me. But honestly, I don't find it that big of a deal. It means I can keep on top of things a bit better because I'm held accountable, you know. Pretty sure that's it for maths. Moving on to chemistry. Next is chemistry, and for chemistry, I do sort of a mix of both what I do for maths and biology. I could definitely do a lot more notes for chemistry, but I'm really lacking. I'm really behind on that, and I've been trying to catch up, but it hasn't really been working. That is probably going to be my biggest mission over the summer holidays. Oh, the dreaded chemistry. Probably my least favorite or worst subject. Ugh. I have quite a similar system for biology and chemistry. Since obviously they're both sciences, they are quite similar. Yet again, I have a lab book, which I've already been through, so I won't re-explain it. Literally the same thing. Like, I'm not joking, they're the exact same. It's the same certificate thing. I'm not gonna lie, there's gonna be a lot of overlap here with biology. Again, starting off with in-class notes. Now, I am gonna mention chemistry is red to me. Red or orangey. That's what people like to debate me the most on. People think chemistry is every which color. Anyways, unimportant, getting to the actual notes. Yet again, trusty new notebook. And for stationery here, I use random highlighters or marker pens, and I use my Muji pens as well. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but the Muji pens are the 0.5 ones that aren't the clicky ones, so the ones with the caps. For the titles, I will do a highlighter, usually the topic title, what topic we're doing that day. Subtitles I like to do in my red Muji pen, and I underline that, and then keywords are always orange, and sometimes they're highlighted, sometimes I just don't have time for that though. Again, this does get very messy, especially when my teacher will just give us a handout and tell us to do like 15 practice questions and we're not really taking notes. That's usually when it gets quite messy. But of course, I try my best, but then again, this is A-level, it's very, very quick. Trust me, I know if you miss something in class, you are redoing it at home and you're probably not gonna understand it. Can you tell chemistry has sucked the life out of me? Anyways, for at-home notes, again, on my iPad on Notion. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm not trying to bore you guys with the same thing that I said over and over again for biology, so I'm gonna put some examples up on the board here. I'm also gonna put some hex codes for different pen colors you can use. For chemistry, I mostly use different shades of red, orange, and pink. Now, what is interesting is I'm not very good at keeping up with chemistry notes like I am with biology. For biology, I'm there, I'm amazing, but chemistry I just can't manage to keep up for some reason, and it's really annoying, and I've been trying to catch up this entire holiday. Do as I say and not as I do. If you are gonna do notes like this, please keep up with them or they're gonna bite you in the back. Same with flashcards. Again, I have the exact same method that I do for biology, but in shades of red and orange, and again, not very well kept up with, so do not be like me. Keep up with all your flashcards and stuff. I'll probably end up making a different video on how I revise all of these things, but I will say flashcards, mind maps are really useful for chemistry. And I think that's it, guys. Obviously, if I've missed anything and you have any questions, like I've said, please comment them, and if your question is big enough and crazy enough, I might even make a whole video on it. I really hope this has helped you guys, even if it was just the littlest bit. Obviously, I'm so down to answer any questions that you have about my note taking or even just like miscellaneous school stuff in the comments, so please feel free to comment anything. It's a lot later in the day now. I have been grinding, I've been working real hard, doing a bit of revision, and I'm gonna go continue that now because I have a test tomorrow and I have mocks in about 2 weeks time. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please use my codes. Obviously, I mention this every time. Everything is gonna be in the description. I really appreciate the support. Like, subscribe if you like the video. Mwah. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you later.